A baseless conspiracy theory is making its way into U.S. politics. QAnon was born online, and the FBI has called it a potential domestic terror threat.
Now to the conspiracy theory on the verge of gaining a foothold in Congress. Some politicians in this election cycle voicing their support or sympathy for the pro-Trump QAnon movement.
An online conspiracy theory has found momentum in the real world. QAnon began in 2017 and has since surfaced in political campaigns and even college classes. But what stands out most about the QAnon community is just how violent some of its trolls are.
During the pandemic, the QAnon movement appears to be gaining a lot of followers. Can you talk about what you think about that and what you have to say to people who are following this movement right now?
Well, I don't know much about the movement other than I understand they like me very much, which I appreciate. But I don't know much about the movement. I have heard that it is gaining in popularity, and from what I've heard, these are people that when they watch the streets of Portland, when they watch what happened in New York City in just the last 6 or 7 months, but this was starting even 4 years ago when I came here, almost 4 years, can you believe it? These are people that don't like seeing what's going on in places like Portland and places like Chicago and New York and other cities and states. And I've heard these are people that love our country and they just don't like seeing it. So I don't know really anything about it other than they do supposedly like me, and they also would like to see problems in these areas, like especially the areas that we're talking about, go away, because there's no reason the Democrats can't run a city. And if they can't, we will send in all of the federal, whether it's troops or law enforcement, whatever they'd like, we'll send them in, we'll straighten out their problem in 24 hours or less, okay?
Well, just real quick, at the crux of the theory is this belief that you are secretly saving the world from this satanic cult of pedophiles and cannibals. Does that sound like something you are behind? Or
well, I haven't heard that, but is that supposed to be a bad thing or a good thing? I mean, you know, if I can help save the world from problems, I'm willing to do it. I'm willing to put myself out there.
So they're being very careful for the optics, for the cameras, you know, pleading the fifth right now, so they don't get attacked. It's just what has to be done, but hey, there you go. Nevertheless, like I've said, mainstream media, desperation, their panic is at an all-time high, and they're doing anything they can to paint QAnon as being violent, being hateful, being extremist. I know you've seen that line repeated in the media. It's been in almost every single article over the last 2 weeks. You know, truly, they're very creative, these people. When they get their news wires all telling them to say the same things. They're so creative with how they rewrite it. But every single media outlet is discussing how the FBI supposedly labeled Q a hate group in some sort of memo they circulated around last year, and that's completely bullshit. I've done investigations into this. I know Praying Medic also did a great article that's available on his website too, completely dissecting this memo. This FBI memo, number one, it looks like it was faked. When you do a forensic analysis of the documents, it looks like certain things were not where they were supposed to be, or certain template letters weren't altered correctly. It looks like a fake. And this goes to show you, right? The times we're in right now, it's not left versus right. It's not Democrat versus Republican. You see, what had to happen is that Donald Trump and that group around him, whatever military intelligence insiders, his devotees in the administration, his core group, right? What they had to do was essentially infiltrate the Republican Party. They had to infiltrate the right wing. They did that back in 2014, 15, 16, okay? They infiltrated the right wing, and now they're using that to beat the shit out of the Democrats.
To understand how that happened, go over some major events that happened in history that led up to that, that shows indications of how this infiltration in the first place was able to occur. A couple of key points through the years that led up to Eisenhower's presidency. 1934, Germany develops operational anti-gravity craft. 1944, Nazis have a plan to infiltrate and create a matrix of perception. They called it Weltanschauungskrieg, which translates to worldview warfare. They plan to infiltrate in, take over control of our media, our education, entertainment industry.
This is Mockingbird, basically, then? This is Mockingbird, basically? Project Mockingbird?
Mockingbird was one element of many. End of World War II, we thought we had victory. Or was it? 1945, during that time, Project Operation Paperclip, Allen Dulles setting up with Nazi General Reinhard Gehlen, brought in thousands of Nazis into the CIA. Nazis and Nazi SS in high positions were controlling NASA, into the biomedical field. 1946, the Rockefeller Foundations, working along with them, has the official history rewritten to hide the Nazi escape and infiltration. So students in the future trying to understand what is happening today have not a clue. 1947, this is all, you can look all this stuff up, and it's all documented, this fact. 1947, Operation High Jump, when James Forrestal sent Admiral Byrd to attack the Nazi Antarctic base. The Nazis had, by that time, perfected their anti-gravity craft, and they were using directed energy weapons like these beams that completely wiped out all the aircraft of Admiral Byrd's fleet that went down there. Everything was hushed up. 1950, Allen Dulles starts Operation Mockingbird. They started out with 400 journalists that control all the mainstream medias back then, and still control it to today. In 1952, everybody remembers well, a lot of people remember in that time frame where there was this mass sightings over the Capitol building in Washington, D.C., all these discs flying. Those were basically Nazi craft from Antarctica that was intimidating. It started with the Truman administration to intimidate them as they infiltrated in. And then in 1953, your great-grandfather, President Dwight D. Eisenhower, became president in January. In February, Allen Dulles was assigned as the director of the CIA. My feelings on, looking at doing a lot of research on secret societies, 33rd degree Freemasons, Knights of Malta, Skull and Bones, and all this. You see a lot of connections with a lot of presidents, CIA directors, the top people being connected with Knights of Malta and 33rd degree Freemasons. Both Eisenhower and Rockefeller were Knights of Malta. And so it may have been that there was believed to be something good happening, but as we find out, Eisenhower got basically kind of sold out and tricked in this whole situation. The media during that time, 1953, was putting out, this was working with the CIA, with Operation Dove, invaders from Mars, War of the Worlds. It's like this imagery of extraterrestrials coming to invade us. They're putting out through the media. And then in April 1953, Allen Dulles starts the MK Ultra project, starting with LSD experiments for mind control.
But here we've got the infiltrated artificial timeline that we're seeing today, in what it's rolling out, what the plan is as far as New World Order and further human enslavement. And then there's the plan. So with the chronology that you're talking about, how can you help us to sort of see how these two are intersecting, or where the positive one is connected to the plan that later becomes what we're seeing with Q? Like where does that begin to show up again?
Yeah, I'm going to skip some of these supplemental events that happen through history, because I know we're probably running out of time. And I think there's a couple of very important events that I wanted to cover. One that you touched on earlier that I wanted to get to President Eisenhower threatens to invade Area 51 if MJ-12 doesn't allow him access. There was a CIA operative that President Eisenhower sent, Stein Cooper, to a mission to Area 51. President Eisenhower said to him, quote, "If we call the people in from MJ-12 from Area 51 and S4, but they told us that the government had no jurisdiction over what they were doing, I want you to go over and your boss to fly out there. I want you to give them a personal message. I want you to tell them, whoever is in charge, I want you to tell them that they have this coming week to get into Washington and to report to me. And if they don't, I'm going to get the 1st Army from Colorado. We're going to go over and we're going to take the base over. I don't care what kind of classified material you got. We're going to rip this thing apart," unquote. So that's kind of a very key thing, showing that Eisenhower was basically out of the loop, and he was trying to, they came back with 2 CIA agents, gave them a report. They saw the saucers, they saw extraterrestrials over there at Area 51 S4. And then a firsthand witness, Brigadier General Stephen Lovkin on Eisenhower's staff, he said without him knowing it, he lost control of what was going on with the entire UFO situation. In his last address to the nation, I think he was telling us that the military-industrial complex would stick you in the back if you're not totally vigilant. And I think that he felt that he had not been vigilant. I think he felt that he trusted too many people. And Eisenhower was a trusting man. He was a good man. And I think that he realized that all of a sudden this matter was going into the control of corporations that could very well act to the detriment of this country, unquote.
Right. And then the warning that we got. So basically, I mean, I know he was well-intentioned, but trusted the wrong people. The infiltration had taken place. It was a surrender with the Nazi Reptilian Alliance, but he put something in place to safeguard our constitutional rights so that in the event that it got to a certain extreme, that they would be allowed to enact the next phase of the plan. So
Exactly.
So we're going from Eisenhower to briefing Kennedy to Kennedy's assassination, and then jump over all these other presidents that have been very much groomed, right? Like where are we with how the baton's being passed over to Kennedy, and what we're seeing with the emergence of this positive military, white hats, Q, and then Trump.
Okay, I'm going to turbo through this.
There's so much information. We're going to have to do a part 2, but I appreciate just how much data
1959, Professor Herman Oberth, who was Werner von Braun's mentor, said we had help from people from other worlds. 59, Art Tree. In 1960, February 28th, President Eisenhower travels to Bariloche, Argentina, a known Nazi hideout. Now, according to the 2017 released JFK files, the FBI knew Hitler was alive and well in Argentina. So, under the auspices of environmental things, he went down there, but most likely he was meeting with high Nazi command. In 1961, everyone's familiar with his farewell warning address, which is pretty well known to everybody. Beware of the misplaced powers, and only an alert, knowledgeable citizenry could protect our future liberties and freedoms. He isn't just saying that for nothing. It wouldn't be fully appreciated, I think, until decades later. And then on January 61, Eisenhower and Kennedy, he brought Kennedy up to speed on the MJ-12 operations. And then after that, a brief history of denial of access to our legal government ever since that point. 10 days after Kennedy put in a request to reveal the UFO files, an assassination directive written by Allen Dulles was carried out on Kennedy. 1977, President Carter made a campaign promise. He was denied access by CIA Director George H.W. Bush. 1993, President Clinton said to Sarah McClendon, the lady who sponsored the 2001 Press Club, "Sarah, there's a secret government in the government. I don't control it. 1993, CIA director in a meeting with Dr. Greer says, quote, "I know the subject's real. I'm trying to figure out why the hell I can't gain access to it," unquote. And then 97, this is crucial. The head of intelligence for Joint Chiefs of Staff, Vice Admiral Thomas Wilson, he was shown a National Reconnaissance Office classified advisory, which showed distribution lists showing these unacknowledged special access programs such as Cosmic Ops, Magi Ops. He told Dr. Greer, after he was denied access, "Well, as far as I'm concerned, if you can get your people willing to testify under oath, you know, talk on record on this matter, you have my permission to go to the mainstream media with this. This group is illegal," quote unquote. And so in 2001, you know, I was one of the 20 witnesses. We disclosed, amazing things to the public. All this was completely sanitized out by the 22 cameras in the mainstream media. In 2002, Admiral Wilson, frustrated because he was basically threatened that if he didn't back off on this thing, which was the corporations were reverse engineering this extraterrestrial technology, that he would be losing rank and see an early retirement. And there was a transcript written by Dr. Eric Davis, the astrophysicist at the EG&G building, where they were doing this discussion that this came out publicly and was revealed. So in 2005, a group of generals basically was told to Dr. Jerome Corsi that Donald Trump had been recruited by the US military to run in the 2016 presidential elections and subsequently help remove the corrupt deep state officials from positions of power. These actions of expanding the prison in Guantanamo Bay seem to coincide with the thousands of, like over 150,000 sealed indictments to remove these deep state assets. And the indications of this military operation being activated that is so heavily being attacked and sanitized on all social media platforms right now. In fact, I better be careful what I say. Anyway, we'll just call it military intelligence, okay? We won't use that 17th letter of the alphabet. Military intelligence appears to be activated with the plan set forth by President Eisenhower due to the control of the operation through Operation Mockingbird of the mainstream media outlets to the public. A group believed to be military intelligence has become activated and is connected with the Trump administration White House, has been started posting, utilizing anonymous back channels that go around like 8chan, the mainstream media's perception control in order to directly inform and educate the public that these operations have been activated. And in October of 2017, the first Q drop, as they call it, this little operation started to come out, and more people, I've been observing them ever since the very first post, and have been observing every post that they've done up to present day. And one of the first things they said, there was, quote, "Amazing how things make sense when you are asked a question. That's the entire point of this operation," unquestioned. In other words, what they do is they simply just asking the public questions and having them do their own due diligence and research to validate it for themselves. And we'll make clear this is not a cult. There's nothing violent associated with them. Basically, all they're simply doing is asking questions of the public, and how much more validity can you get than millions of people researching and finding the answers for themselves?
Right, and it's so heavily targeted, and people will defend the mainstream news and really won't think for themselves. They'll just reiterate what they're hearing. And it sounds like, because this is getting people to do research, it goes back to the speech of a knowledgeable citizenry, a prepared, an alert, a knowledgeable citizenry, that an operation would be put in place to help us to educate ourselves, to gain the self-knowledge we need to navigate these times. So are you directly correlating the Q movement right now with what Eisenhower signed into an executive order behind the scenes?
Witness, yeah, precisely correct. Between the circumstantial evidence of what all these different witnesses have said and the events that have taken place, there's a high indication that the the institutional safeguard that President Eisenhower put in place, it appears if there's anything that shows that it has become active, it's this movement that is being highly attacked and censored on the internet. And there's many indications that this is not just somebody making up a story. Quickly, on December 2017, Donald Trump issues executive order blocking the properties of persons involved in serious human rights abuse or corruption. This is how we take down the cabal, because all of them are involved in some kind of human rights abuse or corruption. And it just takes their funds. And then an executive order to the amendments to the military, Uniform Code of Military Justice, allowing military law versus civilian law to be utilized for expedient justice to those treasonous beings that have done this. And in July of 2018, all of a sudden, it became mainstream. QAnon, military intelligence is, it says it's this conspiracy assault. It's baseless, outlandish, fringe conspiracy, deranged cult, and so they're putting all these names, and every single one of their outlets are like attacking it every way possible. And of August 2018, 51,000 sealed indictments. Now there's over 150,000. October 2018, a whole bunch of people are being removed from positions. They have to clean house before they can get the corrupt elements that have been entrenched into our government. And then in January 2019, does an executive order to eradicate human trafficking. Then in May of 2019, the FBI comes out with a document saying fringe conspiracy theories as a potential violent domestic terrorist. It says that the military intelligence operations being classified as a domestic terrorist threat. This shows you to what extent. And then you have shooting situations. You have the Muslim mosque in New Zealand, El Paso, Texas, Dayton, Ohio, and these people just happened to post a manifesto on the same platform that QAnon. So they want to associate violence with the military intelligence operation. And so there's this huge effort to disassociate, for people don't look into it and don't. And then Facebook in April of 2020, it starts removing anybody talking about this and redirecting on the virus situation as well. Then in April 2020, Adam Schiff sends a letter demanding greater censorship on Google, YouTube, Twitter. And then May of 2020, all these military intelligence posts about Facebook have all been removed. Then on May of 2020, executive order preventing online censorship is made. And last but not least, July of 2020, Twitter bans 7,000 accounts, limits 150,000 others as part of a broad crackdown. And then on August 17th, just a few days ago, John Durham, who was assigned when the very first post came out, starts the indictments, with the first one admitting guilt, which is Kevin Kleinsmith, which will begin a series of indictments that will start revealing to the public this corrupt infiltration. And here we are today.
Right.
That's impossible. Kill him. Die! Die! Why won't you die? Why won't you die?
Beneath this mask, there is more than flesh. Beneath this mask, there is an idea, Mr. Creedy. And ideas are bulletproof.
Our sponsor for today's video is the product ESS60. C60, or carbon-60, is a tiny molecule composed of 60 carbon atoms arranged in a sphere, and it's also known as a buckyball or fullerene, after the geodesic domes of famous inventor Buckminster Fuller. It acts as an electron reservoir that neutralizes free radicals, and some studies have shown C60 to have almost hundreds of times the antioxidant capacity as vitamin C. This is a purified C60 oil blend that comes in 3 organic options: avocado, olive, and coconut oil. You can mix it on your salad, rub it on your steak, dip your bread in it, or like many users of C60, just take it straight off the spoon. If you'd like to try the ESS60 blend in your daily routine, you can find it at oliveoil60.com. What's up, ladies and gentlemen? It's great to see you. It's Tuesday. Hope you're having a fantastic one. Things are getting crazy out there right now, but that is a fantastic thing. Starting off, let's get into Q. Let's talk about how the media is just absolutely desperate to pin really any Trump administration official they can with a question about Q and trying to get some sort of clip, some sort of talking point off them that they can, of course, just attack ad nauseum with. So they're asking everybody except Trump, basically. Mark Meadows, Trump's chief of staff, got asked on Fox by Chris Wallace on Sunday about QAnon. He said that Trump doesn't know much about QAnon. That's what he said. And there was, quote, more pressing issues to focus on. He even called out the media for focusing on QAnon so much. He said, we don't even talk about this in the White House as much as you guys are talking about on it, on the media, is essentially what he said. And it's funny, all these people are just having to basically plead the fifth. That's what they're doing right now. And I mean, truly, if you think about it, Trump would not bring up Q at all to anybody that's not in a need to know having to do with QAnon. So no, Mark Meadows isn't going to know about it. Even Vice President Pence a few days ago, I think last Friday, said that he doesn't know anything about it. You know, whether these guys are just taking the, playing dumb for the cameras, or maybe they don't know anything about it. That could be true too, right? Again, need to know. And I saw the media even ask Melania Trump's spokesperson today about QAnon. They even asked her spokesperson about it, about what Melania Trump's thoughts are on Q. Like, they're desperate for an answer. For an answer that, of course, they can use, not a answer that exposes them. And Melania Trump's spokesperson, it was MSNBC that was asking her, and they asked if Melania should disavow, and her spokesperson basically gave a very, very careful answer to that one too, beating around the bush and not directly disavowing QAnon, but of course not even saying anything about it really either. So they're being very careful for the optics, for the cameras, you know, pleading the fifth right now so they don't get attacked. It's just what has to be done, but hey, there you go. Nevertheless, like I've said, mainstream media desperation, their panic is at an all-time high, and they're doing anything they can to paint QAnon as being violent, being hateful, being extremist. I know you've seen that line repeated in the media. It's been in almost every single article over the last 2 weeks. You know, truly, they're very creative, these people, when they get their news wires all telling them to say the same things. They're so creative with how they rewrite it. But every single media outlet is discussing how the FBI supposedly labeled Q a hate group in some sort of memo they circulated around last year, and that's completely bullshit. I've done investigations into this. I know Praying Medic also did a great article that's available on his website too, completely dissecting this memo. This FBI memo, number one, it looks like it was faked. When you do a forensic analysis of the documents, it looks like certain things were not where they were supposed to be, or certain template letters weren't altered correctly. It looks like a fake. And also, this memo cites Snopes and Wikipedia as sources for true information on QAnon, so you know it's bullshit. It was also never really circulated around. It was posted on a scribed account, never posted on an official government website. You can even try to FOIA for it or search government search engines for it. You probably won't find it. So it's posted on a private scribed account and then leaked to Yahoo. So basically what's happening is that the same way that bad actors in the FBI tried to frame Trump for colluding with the Russians, they're trying to frame QAnon as being a violent, domestic terror, extremist hate group, right? You take bad actors in the FBI, they fake a dossier or fake a memo, and then they leak it to the media publishes it, and then gives it a sort of pseudo credibility by a big name media outlet publishing it, and then people think it's real and take it seriously, right? Same thing is happening here. So that's a quick, like 1 to 2 minute brief as to that talking point and how it's bullshit. And again, if you've been following Q like I have for nearly 3 years now, and you're well versed with all this stuff, it's like plain as day. There's psychobabble bullshit that they write in the mainstream media about Q. It's pathetic. It truly is. They do literally zero actual research into this stuff. They just get their narratives and regurgitate that like brain-dead zombies. Now moving on to this QAnon legislation that came out today. Oh my gosh, check this out. So bipartisan lawmakers, as Axios writes, to introduce House resolution condemning QAnon. I kid you not. 2 representatives, one out of New Jersey, he's a Democrat, Tom Malinowski, and a Republican from Virginia, Denver Riggleman, says they're introducing legislation to condemn QAnon. Legislation to condemn QAnon. Let me tell you one thing. All this tells me is that these guys have some skeletons in their closet that they're trying to hide. That's one thing. Number 2, imagine being officially condemned by congressional legislation in America because you follow anonymous posts on an online messaging board that asks questions. They just ask questions. Ask questions, make cryptic statements, and now we're all terrorists. 2020. Can it get any weirder? Yeah, it can. The fact that this was done the day after we have, like, Wisconsin literally burning down. BLM and Antifa are freaking burning down a town in Wisconsin to the ground, and QAnon gets projected onto as being the hate group and the extremists and the violent people. So, anyway, let's move on from this now. Let's talk one more thing having to do with Q, and then we'll get into that situation there in Wisconsin. So this really happened over the weekend, but I want to bring it up here to you guys on YouTube. The Save the Children, save our children, potato, right? You know the theme I'm talking about. We had a lot of rallies last weekend. They sort of been going on for a few weeks now. They're called Save the Children rallies. Now, I'm going to preface this by saying that I am all for a rally that is against human trafficking and is spreading awareness, trying to eradicate that issue. Don't get me wrong, I'm all for it. But when you look at a lot of these details surrounding the Save the Children theme meme that's like being pushed into the collective consciousness right now, there's a lot of red flags, at least that are coming up from me. I'm going to direct you guys towards a Twitter thread that I released over the weekend. Spent quite a few hours on this one, actually, on Saturday evening, but I felt like I needed to because I saw a lot of weird stuff coming up with these Save the Children rallies. Now, last weekend, there were a lot of positive events around the country where these Save the Children rallies looked like turnouts that were spreading awareness in helpful, resourceful ways. They looked like good events, okay? But there was a couple of them that looked totally ass backwards, not like even any Q followers were there. They looked like literally fake Q followers. One was this rally in Chicago where their signs had BLM written on them and defund the police and shit like that. But then they also had where we go one, we go all and end human trafficking and things like this. So it's like, what the heck? And you didn't even see any Q swag, MAGA swag, nothing. It was like Antifa people literally just started writing a couple Q slogans on their signs to try to like muddy the waters and confuse people, right? Not just that, but I also noticed a lot of bots pushing the same sort of messaging, pushing this Save the Children stuff. Like, why are bots doing that? Bot accounts. They were clearly not human accounts too. And then last thing was the incident in Portland. So in Portland was probably the worst event of this Save the Children rally. And I don't even think there was any Save the Children proponents there. Definitely not QAnon proponents. There were some people that had shields that had Q and where we go on, we go all on them. But I bet these mofos never even read a Q drop in their life. They probably don't even know how to log onto the boards. Like, and honestly, their shields that they were using at this, like, Save the Children, I think some of them were Proud Boys too, which, yeah, they're shields. The shields of these supposed Q followers that were going at the Antifa people looked exactly like the Antifa shields. It was like Antifa against Antifa. One of them just dressed up as Q folks. Like, when we talk about LARPing, live action role play, I mean that in a literal sense when I talk about these Portland protests and these supposed Q followers. It literally looked like they came off the Renaissance field from beating each other with, like, swords during their medieval LARP fair, and then just went into the streets of Portland to try to hang out with their Antifa friends, just in different costumes. I don't know. It was a mess. But you got to be careful with this Save the Children theme that's going on, because the mainstream media, in my eyes, is absolutely co-opting this, and they're trying to, like, mash this QAnon stuff into it, again, in their, like, psychobabble, crazy wordsmithing they're doing, and then feed that to the mainstream public and really confuse them and think that Q folks are all crazy with this Save the Children stuff. I even think I saw a New York Times article say that Save the Children is getting taken over by QAnon. Like, what? QAnon came out like 3 years ago. These Save the Children rallies have been happening for like a month. So, yeah, just be careful, guys. Now let's move on into these Wisconsin protests. So, awful situation all around. Whichever way you look at it, this situation just looks bad. And what happened is that in a town called Kenosha, Wisconsin, there were a handful of cops. There were like 3 cops that were in an altercation, basically, with a black gentleman. The black gentleman, you can watch the video. There's a lot of videos out there going around. The gentleman tries to, well, he was not doing what he was told by the police officers, and he was pissed off with whatever was happening. And then while he has guns drawn on him, he tries to get into his minivan, and that's when the cops start shooting. And apparently he's alive and paralyzed from the waist down, but again, just awful situation. And I don't think anybody was right here. Honestly, I think everybody was freaking wrong. Because on one hand, if you have guns drawn on you by the police officers, you should probably do what they're asking, all right? It's not that tough. And also, if you have guns drawn on you, you don't reach for anything anywhere, like at all. That should be common freaking sense. Your hands should be where they can see them, whether that's on your head, behind your back, spread out. Doesn't matter. You don't reach into your freaking vehicle. That gives the police officers then the assumption that you're reaching for some sort of weapon, because that happens constantly. When people reach into the glove box, reach into their car, and the cops didn't ask them to get anything, then they're usually reaching for a weapon. There's videos of incidences like this happening all over the internet. So I can see why the cops would think that the guy's probably reaching for a weapon. But at the same time, why do the cops need to have like 3 guns on the dude and be so quick to just go pop, 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 pop? Where's the taser? One of them could have used a taser. They could have probably tried to de-escalate the situation a little more. I mean, it's just wrong all around. Shouldn't have happened to him. The dude could have definitely done better in that situation, handled it better. So just when stuff like this happens, it's just like, oh man, more fuel to the flames that are just going to get fanned. And you know the mainstream media, they're fanning these flames as much as they can right now. They're thinking that this is absolutely perfect for their propaganda. And in fact, I would not be surprised if the professional protesters in Wisconsin and the surrounding areas last night got their deployment orders and they said, oh, from their, probably on their Soros phones, get down to the closest government building you can find with your Molotov cocktails. We got an incident that we need to capitalize on. It's bad. It's really bad. And now the town of Kenosha, Wisconsin is like literally burning to the ground. Just like I mentioned earlier. It's like I saw a video earlier today. I'm like, is that Beirut or is that Kenosha? Just all these cars burned. We've got like buildings burning down that black people owned even. So much for Black Lives Mattering. You're burning down these local businesses that black families are using to support themselves. Like shit. So anyway, bad situation out of Wisconsin. Let's move on now to the convalescent plasma therapy. On Sunday, Trump made an announcement that he was approving the emergency authorization use for convalescent plasma therapy on COVID patients. Yay, yay, you would think, oh, everybody's clapping. We have a new potential treatment. But of course, Big Pharma and their lapdogs in the mainstream media aren't having that at all. Let's go down the list of all of the different people that are now attacking him for it. Of course, the World Health Organization yesterday said that they're being cautious about endorsing it. And they're saying that the evidence it works remains, quote, low quality evidence. Okay. Newsweek is saying that it's outrageous. They're quoting all these supposed scientists. Oh, scientists are saying it's outrageous. And they're blasting Trump's announcement of his plasma therapy. Great. Yeah, Newsweek. Fantastic. More mainstream media. New York Times. FDA is grossly misrepresented. Blood plasma data. Scientists say. What the heck with all these scientists? Scientists say. Let me tell you. Scientists can be bought and blackmailed and paid off just as easy as a politician can. Hard truth, but a necessary one. No, when scientists say things, I'm not going to automatically believe that. There's a lot of bullshit science out there. Fake news and fake science. Those are the real epidemics. Let's see here. Former head of the FDA, Dr. Scott Gottlieb. He told CNBC yesterday that plasma therapy might be, quote, weakly beneficial. You like that? If it's a medical expert or a medical group, World Health Organization, former FDA heads, whatever, their angle is that it's weak, inconclusive, no evidence. If it's a media organization, well, they're just going to point to the scientists and say it's, grossly misrepresented. Well, you know what? I think the FDA is grossly misrepresented as a scientific organization. And I think the New York Times is grossly misrepresented as a factual news organization. That's the truth. And not just the former FDA head Scott Gottlieb giving Trump shit for the plasma, but how about the current one? Stephen Hahn. He has actually been walking back his claims now within the last 24 hours. So he didn't even let a day or two go by after that press conference on Sunday. Now he's just walking back his statements. He's kind of like the World Health Organization and the former head of the FDA. He's now saying like, there's less evidence than we thought. I misspoke. I didn't mean to say that it was that promising. Dude, FDA, really? Please expose these guys. Trump, please expose this deep state FDA. Because literally any single thing that Donald Trump promotes, not just Trump, anybody, right? But Trump sort of leading the charge right now. Anything he promotes, whether it's UV light, whether it's hydroxychloroquine, whether it's that disinfectant. Remember the disinfectant? The one I talk about all the time that I can't really talk about on YouTube that much? Oh, that could definitely work. How about oleander leaf extract? How about plasma? Doesn't matter what it is. If it's not an effing vaccine, Big Pharma doesn't want it. God, sick stuff. Sick stuff. Okay, moving on to the last topic, and then we'll finish up here. The Republican National Convention blowing away the Democratic National Convention by a long shot. Number one, it's actually live, so it's far more entertaining and personable to watch than the crap the DNC put out last week that was all edited and Hollywood effects and all this stuff. It was so just fake. The Republican National Convention is much more professionally done. It's live. There's so much more emotion involved in it. I like it. It's good. And in fact, they're saying that it had 6 times the viewership than the Democratic National Convention did last week. And gosh, I think I read an article on C-SPAN about people literally just watching the RNC and changing their mind and all these sorts of things. Like, it's cool. It's cool to see what's happening with the RNC. Donald Trump got his official renomination for the president. He makes his speech on Thursday. So it's a good week. Good week of winning. All the folks in the mainstream media, when they even have to talk about this Republican National Convention, they have like robot faces doing it. So anyway, what the media is focusing on this is the, quote, divided Republicans. And really what they're doing is focusing on all of these former Republicans and some current that are either essentially defecting from the Republican Party or they are disavowing QAnon. Okay, so first of all, the ones that are like defecting from the Republican Party, Joe Biden actually started this group of more than 24 former Republican members of Congress, and the most notable one of which is a former GOP Senator Jeff Flake out of Arizona. Yeah, Flake. And then we got a lot of Republicans disavowing QAnon. We had a couple congressmen do it. We got Liz Cheney. We got Jeb Bush, all blasting Trump for Q, all calling it crazy, dangerous conspiracy cult nonsense. So if I see Liz Cheney, if I see Jeb Bush, if I see people like these Republicans disavowing QAnon, well, then we know we're on the right damn track, don't we? And this goes to show you, right? The times we're in right now, it's not left versus right. It's not Democrat versus Republican. You see, what had to happen is that Donald Trump and that group around him, whatever military intelligence insiders, his devotees in the administration, his core group, right? What they had to do was essentially infiltrate the Republican Party. They had to infiltrate the right wing. They did that back in 2014, 15, 16, okay? They infiltrated the right wing, and now they're using that to beat the shit out of the Democrats. So both parties had to be infiltrated, essentially, and we're still seeing all that play out. Right wing, the Republicans, they got sanitized. That party got cleaned, I guess we could think of it. Not completely. There's still some weirdos in there, but it got cleaned, and now they're using that Republican Party to then beat the crap out of the Democrats and expose the whole gambit, all right? When it comes to Trump, yeah, I would definitely give him my vote here in 2020. I could care less what he calls himself, but the way I see it, he is our last best shot at not freaking having our country and our world crumble into smithereens. So anyway, that's why I support him. And gosh, media, they're desperate. Desperate to attack Q, desperate to attack Trump and these Republicans, making all the fake polls they can. I don't know how many polls I saw over the last day or two, all saying that Biden had, shoot, some of them were even saying like a 12-point lead. BS. All the polls are fake. Hillary Clinton comes out in an interview, tells Joe Biden not to quit, don't give up. Well, does that mean even if Trump wins? None of them are giving up. So, hey guys, it's getting crazy out there. It's nuts. We're all getting censored. We're all getting attacked. We're all getting lied about and shit thrown our way. But the way I see it, that's a fantastic thing. That's a great thing. That means we're all over the target. That means we need to continue with what we're doing. And I'm just going to continue with what I'm doing too. So thank you guys. Remember, subscribe, notify yourself to this channel. I recently started a Discord and a Telegram, so you can check out those channels. I'm also on Parler, Gab, and luckily got my Twitter account back. They actually suspended me over the weekend, but I filed an appeal, and they gave it back to me pretty quick. So still on Twitter, and then check out Patreon too, and then check out Conscious Strength. I redid that website. It's looking a lot better. Take care, guys. Go check those things out. I'll see you soon. Done for this one.